Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chupacabra's Lair. I am, of course, your host, Larry the Chupacabra, and today we're taking a look at the finalists from the Public Domain Game Jam. These are the different winners from the Best Of in their various categories, along with the Grand Prize winner, who won the Best Overall for the entirety of the Game Jam. So, the winners will receive, for the best of things like sound, graphics, polish, and fun, you'll win a subscription to the Loom SDK, which is a fun little multi-platform development suite, which allows you to port 2D games to different things like tablets, PC, consoles, and more, kind of like the Unity of the 2D world. And then, of course, the Grand Prize winner wins $1,000 in cash, thanks to a gentleman named Nicky Case. And everybody else who was nice enough to participate in this really fun game jam will get a Kenny donation pack, which I am not entirely certain what that is, but sounds really fantastic. So stay tuned, and eventually the gentleman behind the entire thing, Gritfish, will send you your download keys. So now, as a part of my showcase series, even though I didn't get to make a proper second video for several random games, we will be taking a look at the winners of the different categories and how they went about winning that particular section, and seeing what they did in their game to make it so fun and awesome. And so, to begin our little game-related adventure, we will be checking out March of the Cards by Wolve. March of the Cards, then, is a game built around the public domain story of Alice in Wonderland, and it won in the categories of Best Graphics, Best Sound, and the highest level of polish. And I can certainly understand the level of polish in this game. You are immediately greeted with a screen that allows up to 4 players on a singular keyboard using different sets of keys, much like you might imagine an old Metal Slug game, and then you jump right in there with your requisite amount of starting cards or soldiers, and you just get right down to a giant circular map where you've got a mosh pit battle it out for supremacy over the Rose Garden. And if you're like me, and you didn't have anyone on hand the first time you played it, you just sort of mosh pitted against yourself, using the WASD keys and the arrow keys. And so, as you battle it out for supremacy here, you have a little damage counter at the top of the screen, which denotes who has taken the most damage, and if your color takes over most of that bar, then you are the winner. Or, in the case of my playthrough, the red indicated that the Red Queen was going to be winning. As you battle it out throughout this little arena, you have little decks of cards which spawn, which will replenish your troops as they get murdered. But be very careful as you swizzle and swazzle and swing your way around the track, because you can fall into that deadly, deadly hole in the center and lose half of your army, if you don't just fall in yourself and watch as they all sort of lemming over the side and you lose that round. Overall, that was pretty fun. The graphics, I can definitely agree, are very, very well done, and there is a hilarious track in the background of a remix of Painting the Roses Red, because as you know, Alice isn't really the biggest fan of a bunch of boring white roses, so she is painting all of them to defy the Wicked Queen, who wants everything in her devious kingdom neat, orderly, and as she has depicted in her grand master plan. So, very nice job, Mr. Wolve, and whoever you might have had helping you create this fun game. The only thing I might have complained about was that there really isn't an option to play it single player when you're just testing it out. So maybe throwing in an AI option in the future would be great if you bother or see fit to refine it. And keep up the good work. I had a lot of fun with this. I had a couple friends over and we screwed around a little bit after the fact. And I can certainly see this turning into something like a Star Wars game, where you just invite some friends over, throw out the console, and you just each pick a color, and you just mosh pit it out for the battle in the Rose Garden. Or, in the case of that game, just stabbing each other in the juicy bits with narwhal horns in space. So very nice job, guys. Keep up the good work. And after March of the Cards, we have Oliver Twist by Shorty and Mario Helbing. And this is a fun game that plays off of the old story of Oliver Twist, who is a little street urchin back in Victorian-era London, I believe, and you have to pick pockets of all of the townsfolks in order to survive. You, of course, have to pay off your overseer, Mr. Fagin, or Hagen, or Falgen, or not sure how you pronounce his name, and he needs to be paid off with $15 a day, or else his henchmen will murder you. But if you manage to, in the course of several days, save up a little bit of extra cash on top of that $15, you will be able to pay off Mr. Bill Shikes, and he'll let you go, instead of slitting your throat and hucking your body in the river. And so Oliver Twist is actually a really fun sort of like stealthy thief game, where you have to avoid the watchful gaze of the constable as he makes his patrol through the town square, while also finding folks who are distracted via conversation or looking into the different shop windows, and then proceed to crouch and pick their pockets so that you get their money. About $5 a person, takes about 3 people, so that you meet your daily goal and then have a little bit left over so that you might one day earn your urchiny freedom. And I thought this was a great combination of very simple game mechanics. It wasn't too overwhelming, but you were kept busy with every little minor facet here so that you didn't get caught and put into jail for the evening, which, well, makes your overseer, Mr. Hagen, rather PO'd at you, and he might send you to go get your throat slit, which, I don't know about you, but I am not a particular fan. And this game won the Best Non-CCO Game, and I believe that was the Best Non-Creative Commons Game, but I am not 100% certain. And I had a whole boatload of fun, just, roaming around and watching out for different obstacles and enemies, while making sure that I got as many people pickpocketed as possible. Some wander off screen, some wander in, and then you have a little bit of a day-night cycle thrown in there too, whereas it gets later in the day, the background light dims a little bit, and the lights come on. It was a very nice group of mechanics. And, so you didn't get too bored, you also have different variations in maps slightly, where the fence holes where you have to run to in order to avoid the constable if they see you, catching you and putting you in jail, and different locations for the downspouts where you can jump up on top of the roofs to avoid the constables until you can get to the hiding spots at the edges of the map. So very nice job, especially with adding different numbers of constables and different paths. It was a nice set of challenges, so I had a lot of fun with this. So very nice job, Mr. Shorty and Mario Helbing. Keep up the good work, and I hope to see you again in another jam in the future. After the fun sort of papery game booky mechanics of Oliver Twist, we have the Yellow Wallpaper by Yisti. And this is a game that won the Best Use of Theme, the Truest Source Material, and the Best Innovative Use of Source Material. And the Yellow Wallpaper is the only game so far that I've actually done quite a bit of background research to find out the sources. Is the Yellow Wallpaper follows the tale written by author Charlotte Perkins Gilman about her experience being locked up in a house for a substantial amount of time after giving birth to her child and falling in with a severe bout of depression, which I believe we later found out was probably postpartum depression. And the whole idea here was she had to experience this sort of being shut off from the world or quarantined because they felt that at the time the best way to deal with depression was to cut you off from all sorts of things like daily work and writing or your pastimes and hobbies. In her case, it was writing, until you feel better about yourself. And unfortunately, in her case, this caused a very severe panic breakdown where she just completely mentally snapped, and took her quite a while to recover after she left the confines of this summer villa. So the Yellow Wallpaper then takes us into an interactive gaming experience with which we must experience her story and how she lived and what she went through in this experience that she wrote about. And you start out in the outside of this one room that's very yellow, covered in wallpaper, and it is almost as if you're being imprisoned in a set of steel bars. You can look in and see this very boring, drab, upholstered room, and you know in some way that whoever is contained within it cannot escape. And you go through these manic, sort of depressed thoughts that would have gone through her mind, floating in the air, and sort of experience that sort of mental picture and environment that she would have gone through in her quests for sanity. And I thought this was It was unusual, but it wasn't weird in a way that I didn't like. There was just something about this mental trip that I think a lot of people really enjoyed. Otherwise, I suppose this wouldn't have won the 3 categories that it did. And once you have sort of seen the different thoughts that go throughout on the outside of the room, you enter into the room and you kind of go to the walls and you rip off the peelings of the wallpaper where these shadowy figures of your husband or your child appear, and then another sort of concept appears in their place, like, oh, they're trying to trap me, or they're very, very sinister, they're always trying to trick me, or they always feel so superior, and they always try to belittle me, and it's all of these sort of just dark thoughts that enter your mind when you're having one of those depressed episodes, like if you're really tired and you're not sure what to do with yourself and you eventually just give in and go to bed. And so I thought that was a really nice job. The only thing that kind of bugged me about the whole experience was it's kind of hard to... The controls are a little bit jittery and janky on the inside of the building, but other than running up and having trouble clicking on the shadowy figures to rip the wallpaper off until all of the wallpaper is gone, I kind of enjoyed it. It was weird, but it got me thinking and actually got me to go back and research the story that it's pulled from. So, very nice job, Yisty. I understand why you won the different categories that you did, so keep up the good work, and we will hope to see you again in the future. And then after the Yellow Wallpaper, we have a game that I have already seen and experienced and had quite a bit of fun with, called Me and the Martians by Gear, and this was voted, not too surprisingly by myself, as the most fun out of all the games in the Game Jam. And if you're unfamiliar with Me and the Martians, this is a story that follows the War of the Worlds timeline, and you find yourself in... I'm not really sure what time period, but you go out and you buy some biscuits, and then suddenly the Martians are invading, and you have to hide in bushes and under buildings and in holes in order for them not to see you so you can eventually be reunited with your family. And it's a nice stealth game. You don't have to attack anything, you just have to make sure that you go out foraging for food wherever you can find it so that your little timer in the bottom corner doesn't run out and you starve to death, while also making sure that you don't get seen by those pillars of light surrounding the different gross, gooey, juicy walkers. And it's a very simple group of mechanics, and I had a lot of fun with it. It's a very stealthy platformer game that keeps you busy and keeps you looking out for not one walker, but 2 walkers, and do I have enough time to run up this ladder before the walker comes, because I'm really concerned about not starving to death before I reach the next level. So I can definitely understand how they won that particular category in the Game Jam, and if you're curious about a more in-depth review of what I thought of the game, jump back and check out the games from the first showcase, which you will find a link to in the description. And otherwise, very nice job, crew from Gear. I'm not too surprised, and keep up the good work. And then, of course, last but not least, the grand prize winner for the $1,000 cash is Paper Jekyll by Daniel Mullins. And this is a game that has you going for a grand adventure as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, as I'm sure the name suggests. And it follows the very simple storyline of you wake up in jail, and you don't know why, but you must return to your laboratory and try to piece these scattered memories in your mind back together before you lose it entirely. But, wait a minute, what's this? When you turn around, your lovely papery self turns into Mr. Hyde. So I thought that was a pretty fun concept. This is a duality between stealth, personas, and combat. So you have 2 primary enemies here. You have the police, who are completely fine with your human self, but if you turn green will come billy club you upside the head and take you back to jail. And then you have a group of gang ruffians, who are quite fearful of Mr. Hyde, but are more than willing to run up to Mr. Jekyll and give him a good old stabbing and steal his wallet. So you gotta kind of deal with these 2 while switching these personas in order to fend them off. The police will ignore your human self, and the ruffians are afraid of your monstrous self. And of course, if you're like me, you immediately want to club them both upside the head with whatever sort of weapon or machete you've got, and go about your merry way. And this had a lot of great things going for it. It was a very strong platformer game. There was a lot of, like, avoidance. You know, if you didn't need to go after and kill these guys, if you could just jump over the platforms, it just made your life a lot easier. But when you did get into combat, you had to be very careful about which direction you were walking, so you only showed your human side when you wanted to fool the police, or you only showed your monster side very briefly when you wanted to billy club old ruffian upside the head. So that was very nice. It was a nice concept, or a retake on the sort of stealth mechanics that I really enjoy from different games. So very nice job. And of course, the paper theme of the game jam was nicely represented by having a lovely paper aesthetic, very much like Paper Mario, where everything is some type of different crumpled up paper or cardboard, just anything made out of some variety of paper, and when you killed people they got crumpled up and then tossed aside after they got murdered. And eventually you have to find your way through all these obstacles to your laboratory to drink your elixir of curing and defeat the evil doctor, or Dr. Jekyll to defeat the evil Mr. Hyde. So, very nice job, Mr. Mullins. And of course, a very nice job to everyone who participated in this fun game jam. I had a whole lot of fun playing all the games, even the ones that I didn't quite get a chance to showcase like I wanted to due to lack of time. So, otherwise, all of the links to these games are in the description, including a link to the previous showcase if you'd be interested in checking that out. Aside from that, don't forget to like and subscribe, especially if you enjoyed this showcase and would like to see more in the future. I have been your host, Larry the Chupacabra, and I will catch you in the next game jam. Toodaloo!